Hey YouTubes, how's it going? Here's a startup of my 2002 Softail Standard with the 98-inch kit, 510 cam, and board heads. Stick around and I'll tell you what happened during the installation of this with some pictures. Alright YouTubes, man, where do I begin with this? So the last time I left you and talked to you about this bike, I had just rebuilt the primary from scratch. Basically, brand new stator, brand new compensator, brand new clutch, brand new chain tensioner, and I was just getting ready to tear down and send off the cylinders and heads to Hammer Performance to have the cylinders bored out to a 98-inch and the heads ported. So I got all that taken care of. Everything's torn down. Here's some pictures of the process that I did. And I figured, well, while I had it torn down, I'll go ahead and change out the cams, because the lifter covers are a pain in the rear to get to, the bolts are, once the cylinder is put back in place. So I go ahead and do that. I pull off the cam cover, realize right away that someone's been in there before, because one of the cam plate bolts was about stripped out, so I had to get a new one of those. And then I saw some gnarling on the oil pump, which told me that there had been some engine damage before from something, and it had brand new tensioners on it. So I believe that sometime during the life of this bike, fairly recently, the tensioners have blown out, or at least one of them did. Also, I went ahead and replaced the bearings that are on the cam plate, and during that process the cam plate literally split in half when taking the bearings out. So it had soft points in it, probably a fracture at some point before, along with the gnawing that was, you know, like I said, on the oil pump. So I bought a whole new cam chest from Fueling. I got the Race Series, which is the red ones. So I had the brand new cam plate, brand new oil pump, brand new fueling lifters, brand new bearings, both the front and rear on the cam plate. And to make matters worse, when I was taking out the old cam bearings, because this was a 2002 model, they used the like NMB bearings. I think that's the right three-letter acronym, and you want to go with the touring bearings. So I went to pull out the NMB bearings, and the rear bearing, when I pulled it out, well, let me first start over. When I put the tool in, I noticed it was super easy to get inside of the bearing, which didn't feel correct when I just did the front one. It was a lot harder. So I'm like, all right, whatever. I pull out the bearing and it's missing 2 needles. So I'm like, holy crap. So it just so happens that I looked down in the cam chest and one of the needles was sitting on top of where the bearing sits. There's a little divot. One of the needles was sitting on that. So I'm like, okay, where's the other bearing? Can't find it anywhere. So my buddy is helping me, he's a motorcycle mechanic, and he was like, all right, David, let's get some diesel fuel. You know, luckily you already have the cylinders off, and we're gonna flush out the lower end, the crank area. So over the next 2 days, I flush out the entire crank with diesel fuel probably 20 times, trying to find that needle and get it out of there. And for some reason, it's just gone. I can't find it. So now, I'm franticking around. I'm like, man, now I'm gonna have to separate the crank, the whole bottom ends, take out the crank, and find this other needle, because this needle can destroy my motor. I've just invested all this money into it. I've got to find this thing. So just as I'm getting prepared to split the cases, I look over, and about 4 foot away from my bike is a needle laying on the ground. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's that other bearing needle. I'm like, how does this even happen? So I lucked out completely of not having to pull the whole crankshaft apart, split the cases, and find that other needle. So once I got that done, I put the new Torrington bearings in, which are much more reliable, and start putting everything back together. So now you have it. Technically, this is a 2002 Softail standard. She started life out as an 88-inch motor, all stock, of course. Now she has a complete new primary, 98 bored out cylinders, ported heads, a brand new cam chest, a 510 cam, an S&S Super E carburetor, and a twin tech ignition system. When I got the bike, it had 52,000 miles on it, and as of right now, we're sitting at 102 of a completely refreshed motor and several other components. So, minus the crankshaft, this is a brand new bike. So right now I have the rev limiter set to 3,900 RPM because I want to take it easy for the next 400 miles. Now I'm trying to do my best at not tugging on the throttle, although very difficult. But she's already faster than my dad's 103 Heritage, at least from the way it feels. So my components are working very well together. So next steps with this, I'm going to get to my 500 mile break-in, where I can get the RPM back up to 6,500. And then I know that the engine is reliable. And then I'm going to proceed forward with buying a Paco frame. I already have a 21-inch wheel and a 16 rear. I'm just going to use those wheels maybe change the tires, and then go from there. So that's where I'm at with this project. I hope you've enjoyed this video of where I'm at and some of the challenges that I went through so far, along with the pictures of what I've done. So as always, ride safe, do what you do, and make those YouTube videos so I have something to watch. The deuces.